Hello, Lisa here. Welcome to Walking the Self-Worth Path, a series where I share with you my favorite tarot and witchy tools, techniques, and rituals to support your journey to an empowered life. For me, the journey to self-worth really began with body acceptance. And body acceptance is a really big topic, which is why we're going to be spending a good amount of time in this area over the coming weeks. But I wanted to start with a simple practice that I could share with you guys that can help if you're trying to become at a minimum more familiar with your body. And as I talk about in the self-worth path, shameless plug, as I talk about in my book, the journey for me began with getting comfortable in my own skin, and that was not an easy task. What we're going to be sharing or exploring, I guess, today, what I'm going to be sharing with you today is the crafting of a magical anointing oil that's primary purpose is to have a ritualized or magical purpose for getting familiar with your own body and also getting more comfortable with touching your own body. So an anointing oil is essentially a magical oil meant to anoint or to, I guess, make holy or make special objects, or sometimes your own person. So sometimes we will use magical anointing oils on our skin or on our bodies, and sometimes we'll use magical anointing oils on objects. So the purpose of today's magical anointing oil is to craft something that we will be applying to our skin as an act of conscious appreciation of our body. Now, this can be quite a stretch if you're just starting to dip your toes into the concepts of body acceptance. And so I guess I want to frame this concept or this video with a bit of a preamble, which is to say that a lot of times we think that to develop a good relationship with our body, we need to go all in, like head first, fall head over heels in love with ourselves, and that's a big ask. So I guess what I'd ask you to consider is the idea that as you're exploring the idea of body acceptance, to start real small, like you're just meeting your body for the first time. And an anointing oil gives you an actual magical tool that you can engage with to get a little more comfortable with areas of your body you may typically avoid looking at, considering, thinking about, or touching. Now, to start small, start with something that's simple and easy. So when you're using this magical anointing oil, consider applying it to parts of your body you're not as hesitant to touch at first, like your feet, giving yourself a foot massage with some of this oil, or applying it to your hands as a moisturizer. Start really small, and I would also recommend with any oil that you craft yourself to always do a patch test on your skin first in case you are sensitive to any of the ingredients inside of that oil. I will also caution you, in case I forget later, to mention that any essential oils you choose to use in very small amounts. Some essential oils can be irritating to your skin, so I would definitely recommend keeping the percentages incredibly small. Remember that essential oils are packed with lots of plant medicine, and if you overuse them, you can actually expose yourself to some pretty potent stuff. So keep it really minuscule. If you're not sure, stick with like oils like lavender that can be fairly safe to use in small amounts, but always do your research first. Always look up your botanicals. Always make sure that anything you're going to apply to your body, that you do your homework on. I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite ingredients for a body acceptance oil, but again, I recommend starting to apply this oil in a mindful, conscious way to parts of your body you are more comfortable touching, like your hands or your feet. And then as your body acceptance practice builds and develops, consider applying this oil to areas of your body that might feel a little more charged for you. So for some people, they may have an acceptance issue with their body around an area that they have chronic pain. So applying a little bit of this oil to an area of your body, such as a knee that you have pain in, or a wrist. Other things that could be really charged for people could be a little bit more intimate, like breasts or belly. So consider the areas of your body you may feel self-conscious with. And my personal practice with a body acceptance oil is to apply it to my body and to think loving or kind thoughts about my body or that part of my body as I apply the oil. And so it's meant to be an act of devotion to yourself, to your own body, to get a little more comfortable, perhaps touching an area of your body you might avoid. As I talk about in my book, for me, the most charged area of my entire body was my belly. And I began my body acceptance journey really, and I tell the whole story, but I began my body acceptance journey first by just touching my belly and recognizing that I didn't hate that sensation. And there's a whole lot more to that story, but that gives you a vague idea of how powerful developing a comfort with touching your own body can be if you are really uncomfortable in your own skin. And sometimes touch is a little more easy for some of us than visible than visual, I should say. So while looking in a mirror and appreciating parts of your body can be a very powerful practice, it can also be really intimidating and difficult. Whereas closing your eyes and touching a part of the body can feel a little bit more accessible to some. And all of this comes with a huge caveat again, that you know yourself best, you know what you're ready for best, and I always encourage you to meet yourself where you are. Don't ask too much of yourself too quickly, and if this practice sounds like you're not quite ready for it yet, that's cool. Table it and do it when you are ready, or maybe this never is going to be something that you feel drawn to do, and that's okay too. But we are going to dive into this body acceptance magical anointing oil. So let's begin by selecting a few ingredients and tools. Ingredients and tools. So to start with, I am going to select a couple of bottles. So I have a glass vial that's got a screw top that I really think would work well for this. And I'm also going to select a roller ball because it might be nice to have a more portable version of this oil that I can put on my skin or apply to small areas. So I'm going to work with those two. And let's also grab a dropper just to make life easier for ourselves. I'm going to share with you my personal recipe, and I like to go for botanicals, not just botanicals, rather I should say floral botanicals for this oil, because I want to incorporate some herbs. So I'm going to select some jasmine buds, some rose, some lavender buds, and I think I'm also going to select some daisies. So these are daisies that I dried myself, and daisies to me represent joy and lightheartedness, so I think they'll be a nice addition. I'm also going to pull out a pen and a label so that I can label my oil when I'm finished, and some glitter, because who doesn't need more glitter in their lives? So we've come to my working surface here, and I'm just going to take you through the ingredients that I've selected, why I've selected them, and also some extra things that I have pulled in. So I showed you some of my herbs that I pulled in, but let me just go over those in a little bit more detail. So I selected lavender. Lavender is such a great all-arounder as far as herbs go, and I pulled this one in for tranquility and harmony, because when I'm thinking about forming a peaceful relationship with my body, the idea of bringing in a little bit of that tranquility, of that harmony, just sounds really good. Now, these lavender buds are not as vibrant purple as some others are, but these actually were part of a gift. So I was given a large bouquet of fresh cut lavender, and I dried it myself, I harvested it myself, and I've been working through this jar for a long time. There's actually a lot of it in here, but I'm going to be pretty sparing with my herbs because I'm not making a large amount of oil, and I like to make this in small batches and keep it really fresh. So the lavender for harmony and tranquility. And then I've pulled in jasmine. This is one of my favorite floral botanicals, but when we're talking about the concept of self-love and body acceptance, one of the things that I think jasmine's really good for is bringing in some of that sensuality, which is a really lovely property to embrace when we're trying to get comfortable touching our own skin, the concept of sense awareness, so that's why I'm pulling that in. The rose buds, I associate rose oil or rose buds or rose petals with love in general, so I think it's a really wonderful botanical to add to an oil like this. And as I mentioned, I also selected some dried daisies that I dried and harvested myself. Daisies are one of those flowers or those botanicals that I think is really wonderful for brightness, for joy, for happiness. And since I'm trying to cultivate a very positive relationship with my body with this oil, I want to bring in that element of joy. Speaking of joy, I'm also going to be incorporating a little bit of this lemon essential oil. I'm only going to add a couple drops, mostly for scent, because I want that bright citrus scent in the oil. You could also add, for an element of citrus, some bits of dried orange peel to your oil, or lemon peel. Obviously I've chosen lemon here, but you could do lemon or orange, either oil or dried peel to add to your blend. And I've chosen to pull in some lavender essential oil as well, because while I'm going to be putting in a few of these lavender buds, I want the lavender and lemon scents to both come through in my oil. And finally, out of my collection of Witch's Moon and Witch's Roots and Witch's Bounty oils that I have collected, I selected the Aphrodite oil to add a little bit of this into my blend as well. the containers that I have selected, oh, before I get into containers, let's talk crystals. So for me, what I like to do with anything that is bringing in some of that soft energy, compassion, love, self-love, I like to work with rose quartz, and I have some rose quartz chips here that came in a little kit. I can't remember where I got these, but you can get chips like this very inexpensively, and they're great to add to bottles, little oil bottles and things like that. And I also have a small quartz crystal to hold the intention of the oil. Quartz crystals are really wonderful to just charge towards any purpose, but these are the crystals I plan to incorporate. And then these are my containers. So what I have here, these were both very inexpensive, I should point out. These glass screw top vials, I can get these, I think, either 3 or 4 to a pack from the dollar store. And these are fantastic for just making a small amount of an oil, which is what I want to do today. And then this is a roller ball, and I also got this in a set. Now this one has a small glass roller, but I also have had roller balls that have a crystal in the roller ball tip, and you can usually find those at either your metaphysical store, you can find them online, but this one's just a regular little glass roller ball in there. So these are really simple. Roller balls are great if you think you want to have something portable that you can just apply a little bit to the palms of your hands or to your throat or to areas, your heart space. But in this case, because it's a body anointing oil, having something like this that I can use to quickly apply to a small area of my skin and then rub it in as part of a bit of a body love or body acceptance ritual, this is just a convenient way to have the oil. But I'm going to make the oil first in, actually I might as well just make it in both at the same time, so that you can see how I would do that. So what I like to do is first just cleanse my containers, and I like to do that with a little bit of smoke. So I'm going to take these apart. Now these roller balls usually come out pretty easy, but I didn't grab a tool, but usually I can just work them with my nails. But see these little bits here, you can usually just pull them out, like that. So I got the little roller ball out. I'm just gonna stick it in the cap so I don't lose it. And what I like to do is, and I just sort of build these oils from the heaviest ingredients to, well, maybe I shouldn't say heaviest to lightest. We're gonna see how it unfolds, because yeah. So let's start with crystals, and I just realized I only have one quartz point here, so I'm gonna go grab another one. Okay, so I grabbed another quartz crystal. This one is much smaller, like for scale, because in the roller ball I want a much smaller quartz. So I'm gonna set these in this little lid so I don't lose track of them, because quartz crystals are easy to lose track of. And what I have for cleansing is I have this herbal bundle. This has got a variety of different things in it. It has some bay leaf, I believe, in here. There is some sage. I'm getting the black on myself, but I'm just going to get a little bit of smoke going as I focus on my intention. And I'm just going to run that smoke into my vials. And I like to see the smoke actually curl into the vial. I think you can see that. And same thing here. I just get the mouth of the vial right over where the smoke is. Hopefully that is coming through on camera okay. And the lid, and I'm gonna be a little more careful here with this other lid because I've got my roller ball in there. There we go. And same thing for the lid. That to me is just a simple way of making sure my materials are ready. It's one of those things because I do repurpose my materials all the time. So then what I'm going to do is put my crystals in the bottom. So before I add my quartz, I'm just going to charge them with my intention. So I like to just hold the quartz crystals in my receptive hand and hold my charging hand over top. So I like to, my left for me is my receptive, my right is my charging hand, and I'm just going to focus on love and acceptance of my body. Love and acceptance of my body. And depending on where you are on the self-worth path, you may want to just start with acceptance or begrudging acknowledgement. It doesn't have to be big, right? So I'm going to place the larger quartz crystal in my primary oil bottle here and the smaller crystal in my roller ball. And then I'm going to add a chip of rose quartz to each. Perfect. So that is what those look like. You can see the crystals in there. And now I can put this away so I don't spill anything, which I am notorious for doing whenever I do anything tabletop like this. Okay, so next thing, I want to add my herbs. So I want to make sure that I don't end up putting too much herbs in this oil so that they end up kind of hard to get the actual oil out. So I'm going to be very conservative here and just put a couple of little lavender buds in the small one. And this smells so good. And a couple of little lavender buds in the big one. I'm probably gonna be a little bit more generous with the big oil. And of course I'm spilling some because that's how I roll. So that's my lavender. Next I'm gonna add my jasmine buds because these are pretty chunky. So I'm probably just gonna go with 2 little buds in the small oil. And let's do 4 in the big oil. Again, jasmine for sensuality, beauty. Yeah, might as well get that last little petal in there if I can pick it up. Okay. Next, the rose. So rose again for love and romance. So we're thinking of ourselves in this context. Hello. These are in more pieces, so I'm not going to try to get full buds in there, but I'm just going to put a little bit of that in the roller ball and some in this bigger one. I feel like I want a little bit more. See what I said? This is why I start with the dry herbs. Okay, a little bit more in the big one. Okay. No, I want more rose. I like a lot of rose. What can I say? Oh, that's like really big. I would like some, I want that big chunk, but it's probably not going to come out for me. This is a disaster waiting to happen, y'all. Okay. And my dog is like behind me like, nap time. Okay. I'm going to move some of that out of the way. I'm just going to sniff. Yeah, these already smell good, but part of what I'm smelling is the herbal smoke from earlier. Okay, so that's the rose, and let's add the daisy. So again, daisy, this is just something I decided to add. Oh, I really packed this in here. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? Okay, I'm going to take some of these smaller petals and put them in, if I can make it in there. I'm going to put these into the, my dog is literally building a nest in my bed as we speak. There we go. And I'm just going to use this little eyedropper to loosen some of these because I packed them in there pretty good. And I want to get a few out. There we go. That looks good. Okay. I probably don't even need that many, but we're going to toss those in there. And I just love the way flower petals specifically look in a oil that is meant to bring in that element of love and softness. But daisy is so lovely because it brings in that brightness and the joy, which is something that sometimes we lose, right? When we're really focused on a goal, sometimes we lose that brightness, and I just think daisy is lovely for bringing that in. Okay. And you don't have to have all these specific ingredients. I just want to keep saying that because I think when I was new to the craft, I felt like I had to follow recipes and have specific ingredients, but at least this gives you a peek into my process and how I build oils like this. So I'm going to add my carrier oil next, and for that I am using a fractionated coconut oil. Now this is a bit of an exercise in waiting for an accident to happen. I'm notoriously bad at spilling this. You can tell by how wrinkled the outside is because I've spilled oil on it so many times. It's a miracle the label hasn't come off. I'm going to try to use a dropper, and I may have to speed this part up, so I'm not going to talk too much. And clearly I have no patience, so I'm just going to pour and hope for the best. This one isn't going to be too bad because it's a wider mouth. So I want to fill to about 2/3 of the way. And what I like about fractionated coconut oil is that the oil is clear, so you can see that in there. So I want enough oil that I can have room to add my essential oils, but I can also see how much room I have. Does that make sense? So I'm going to do the same thing on here. This one might be a little trickier. So again, about 2/3 of the way. That's good, and I've already gotten oil on myself, which is fine because fractionated coconut oil is one that my skin happens to love. Okay, and I will wipe everything off before I label it at the end. So now I've got my carrier oil in both of these. Now other carrier oils that are really good might be olive oil. I've heard good things about jojoba oil, but I am just really stuck on fractionated coconut oil. So I'm gonna leave the bottle open, but just set it aside. So next thing is I'm going to add my essential oils. Now I'm doing these mostly for fragrance, so I'm not going to go crazy. I'm going to add about 5 drops of lavender oil into the big container and about 2 or 3 drops into the small one. And then I'm going to go a little less on the lemon because I don't know if the lemon is irritating the skin, so I'm going to keep it really minuscule. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the lavender. And I like to give it a little sniff and just see what I think. Oh yeah, I can smell the lavender. I could probably go a little more, but we'll see what I think when I've added the lemon. Oh, I forgot to add the lavender to this one. So I'm gonna go 3 in this smaller one. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then we'll see what we think. Yeah, it smells really lovely. Lavender's got a really recognizable smell to me, even in small amounts. So next is the lemon. I think the lemon may overpower, but I'm gonna add 1, 2. Oh, that's really nice. Okay, so I think 2 is the right amount, so I'm gonna only add 1 to the smaller. Just 1 drop, please. There we go, got it. And it's tempting to add more lavender, but I think I'm gonna leave it. Now, lastly, I have pulled out this Aphrodite oil, which as you can see has some similar botanicals in it to what I've already selected. Now, this came in my Witch's Moon or Witch's Bounty box. I can't remember. I think it was a Witch's Moon box, yes. And this has a pretty delicate fragrance, but it could potentially overpower. I'm just gonna put 1/2 of a dropper full or so into each bottle. Maybe a little bit less in the roller ball. There we go. Okay. So lastly, I have this glitter. Now, this is a very potent glitter that I got years and years ago at a metaphysical shop. I wish I could remember where, but this is incredibly fine and a little goes a long, long way. I've been using it in projects and magical things for a very long time, and as you can see, I've still, like, I think I'm not just now exactly halfway. So I'm gonna try to be sparing, but it's difficult with stuff like this. So we'll see where I end up. I'm gonna do the roller ball first. Now the glitter I'm adding for a little touch of something wondrous. And you guys know that I'm a big fan of like unicorns and that kind of brightness and magic. So I just want a little bit of that in my anointing oil, and I don't mind getting a little glitter on myself. So I'm being way more generous than I planned, but it looks so pretty in the bottle. So that's in there now. Perfect. And I'm probably gonna be even more generous in here because I can and because it's mine. You don't have to put glitter in, and honestly, if you don't want glitter all over your body, you may not want to. I happen to not care if I have glitter all over my body all day, every day. So I was actually pretty generous there. I don't know if you can see that. I put quite a bit in. There's a little bit of reflect, but I'll show you once I give it a good shake. So I'm gonna get the little cork back in that guy right away. And lastly, now that all my oils are in there, I'm going to, ooh, look. Oh my God, I hope the camera's picking that up because the glitter is going through and it's real, real pretty, y'all. Oh my God, okay. There might be glitter in all of my anointing oils from now on because wowza, is that stunning? Okay, sorry, I'm being distracted. I'm gonna top these up now with the rest of my fractionated coconut oil, and in the roller ball, I'm gonna be careful to not go too tall, or too high up, because I still have to get the roller ball back in there. So, just below the curve of the bottle. Oh, just above actually. So I'm gonna, oh my gosh, it's so pretty with the glitter. Yeah, this was a good idea. I haven't put glitter in an anointing oil before. I've put it in other spells and things, but oh my gosh, is that ever pretty? Okay, well, guys, that's a win. All right, I'm gonna give it a good shake, and then I'm going to get it up in the light where you can see. That was a good choice. Oh my goodness, can you see? So that's really beautiful. I've got my crystal in there, I've got rose, I've got daisy and jasmine, and that fractionated coconut oil, and the holographic glitter I've got in here is giving me this really gorgeous orange gold kind of cast, and because it's such a lightweight glitter, it's just flowing all the way through the oil in this really beautiful way. Loving that. Okay, totally geeking out on it. And let me just add the rest of the oil now to the big bottle. This one's a screw top, so I'm still not gonna go all the way to the very top. So let's cap this one. This one I plan to give a good shake and just put my finger over the top when I'm applying. Oh my goodness. Okay, I know there's some reflection, but I'm just hoping that the glitter is just showing up well on camera. I think it is. Okay, that's real, real pretty. Okay, so this may just be something fun to play with, says the squirrel making the video. Okay, so that's beautiful. So this, my friends, is my oils. So I'm gonna wash these up right now, make sure they're clean and they're dry so that I can make my label. I'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. So I have taken a little bit of warm soapy water and washed off the outside of these containers really, really well, and then dried them really well so there's no oil residue, because I want my labels to be able to stick. That being said, these are very recognizable bottles, so I'm just really excited about how these turned out. Again, that glitter just took it all the way over the top. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to just make a simple label. Now I just take mailing labels and cut them so that they're little squares. So I'm just going to call this my body acceptance oil. I'm gonna find the edge of my label there. Okay, so my writing is not the best. Uh-oh, well, I went over. There we go, let's try that again. Good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect as long as I know what it is. And I am going to just pop that on my bottle. And it's sticking really well because it's clean and dry. So that is my body acceptance oil. And this one is my body acceptance rollerball. I think I'm going to leave this one labelless. It's very recognizable, particularly since I have a parent oil to compare it against. I want to give this a sniff now that it's really shaken up. I'm going to do that with the rollerball because it'll be less messy. This one, every time you open it, because it's just an open jar basically, I'll have to be very careful. And what I'll probably do is use a dropper to pull out a little bit of oil and drip it on the body where I want to put it. But I do want to see how this looks, especially in the rollerball. So let's take a look and a smell, and I'll put some on the back of my hand. Oh, it smells really good. Okay, let's see if any of the glitter comes out. I don't know if it will or not. Oh, a little bit did. Feels really good. So the shimmer comes out. There's definitely shimmer on my hand, but it's actually very fine, and there's only a few, so only if the light catches them just right. But the magic in this oil is fantastic. I'm so excited with how these turned out. I have made body acceptance oils in the past as well as self-love oils, but this is my favorite by far, and I'm so glad I did it on camera and shared it with you guys. So thank you so much for joining me as I crafted this body acceptance ritual body oil or magical anointing oil. I encourage you to come up with your own recipe based on the herbal properties, the crystals, whatever else you think will support your practice in accepting your body the best. But this can be a really wonderful tool, and on days you're struggling, having a little roller ball in your purse or nearby, something really easy to apply when you're struggling and you're finding yourself really critical of your body, it can just be a really great way to bring you back into the present moment, back into a place of self-acceptance and self-love. Thank you so much for joining me for walking the self-worth path. I am so excited to share with you more of my favorite tarot and witchy tools, techniques, and rituals to support your journey to an empowered life. Thank you again so much. Remember to like, share, subscribe, do all of those good things. And remember, if you would like to book a one-on-one tarot reading with me, you can always do that over at supportivetarot.com. Thank you so much, and may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye, guys.